Words really don't describe the joy that Lori and I have experienced being up there 40 days in the wilderness with these young Daniels, young men and women that are going to absolutely change the world by changing lives one person at a time. And I know you've already started to see some of that, what God has been doing. It's been amazing to have a front row seat just to watch. It's been the incredible blessing just to be a part, just to be there. Lori and I talk about it as just being a gift from God to be in the presence of what He's doing in the lives of these young people. And the best rhetoric for that is to hear from them. So we want to do that. And to get us started, I want to invite up a young woman who has a heart for global missions. She has the courage to follow Jesus anywhere and everywhere. And we are so blessed that she follows Him to Wilderness North to be with us. I want to invite up Abbey Meyers.
This past January, I was standing under the world's largest buffalo in Jamestown, North Dakota, and it was negative 13 degrees. It was about halfway through my Young Daniel year this past year, and I had the opportunity to go on a trip with a fellow Young Daniel and a Daniel leader to gain some momentum at that in Valley City, North Dakota. There's a couple of Young Daniel and Daniel graduates that live there that want to start a Change Academy there. So we are going there to inform them and to answer questions and to excite people. And we were taking a detour to visit the world's largest buffalo, and if you're ever in Jamestown, you should check it out. But this trip really got me excited about sharing the vision of Tentmakers, and it got me excited to share my own personal stories of how God has worked in my life through this ministry, and I just really want to see Him do it in other people's lives. So we spent the weekend telling personal stories and answering questions and generating excitement and commitment to try and start a Change Academy there in the next couple of years. I met a junior in high school when I was there, and she said this to me: "I wish I was graduating this year. I want to start Young Daniel right now." And I just loved that enthusiasm and that excitement, and I wanted to continue to be a part of it. So God blessed me with the opportunity to be able to be a part of the training team for this past 40 days. And it has been such an honor and a privilege to watch these young men and women grow and to transform and to be excited about this ministry and to be excited about what God is doing in their lives. I've also loved getting to know one of the young Daniels. She's a woman of God who radiates peace and joy and confidence. She has the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Please help me welcome up Sarah Statham.
It was the third Sunday Sabbath, and I was on a walk. I had decided the day before I was going to use my time of Sabbath and walk around Murphy Lake. And no one had done that throughout the 40 days, so I was like, I'm going to be a pioneer. So I packed my bag, I got my water bottle, extra clothes in case it got cold, and my Bible, and I headed out. And the first leg of the journey, going through the trail, I had already walked through it, so I knew what I was doing. And it was quiet, and I was enjoying God's scenery, and it was silent, and I was just, God, you are amazing. Like, I'm in the woods, and I'm by myself, and I just loved it. And I got past the trail, and I started walking down the logging road that goes on the back side of the lake. And that part, I hadn't ever been back there before. It was new to me, and I got kind of nervous. I was like, I don't know what's back here. I don't know what animals are living back here. And I got a little jumpy. Birds would fly out of the woods randomly and scare me half to death. But I pushed on, and I decided to break the silence. I was like, you know what, God, I'm going to sing. So I started belting out some songs and just praising the Lord. And once again, it was like, God, you are amazing. I'm here with you right now. And it was an intimate moment with my Creator. And I finally got to my destination. It was an old abandoned campfire that I got to, and I sat on the log around the campfire, and I just read my Bible. And once again, it was the quiet of the woods, and I enjoyed the time reading the scripture and being with God. And I learned the importance of vitality, and being present in God's creation. A few days later, 13 of us sat around that same campfire. We were joining in fellowship and community, doing our Acts 2:42 group, which was reading a chapter of Daniel and then studying it, looking at insights, questions we have about it, and then applications to our daily life. And it was a great community. We had kayaked and canoed across the lake and started the fire, ate food. And then after our Acts 2:42 group, we prayed together. And the people that I was with really were there for one purpose. And although I felt the love from them, we were all there for God. We were all there to worship God. And after we had prayed, we started to sing. We started to worship God around the campfire. And it was great. I learned that I needed the solitude time with Christ to benefit and contribute to the community. And as a modern day Daniel, I take time now with solitude with Christ to bring Christ to the community. Thank you.
She pours out God's love to all she meets. She's an encourager, a fighter, extremely insightful, and is truly a modern day young Daniel. Please, let's all welcome up Holly Bagley.
Early one Saturday morning, in about week 4, I was driving away from civilization, sipping on a piping hot, dark roast, slice of heaven cup of coffee with vanilla creamer, and I had the oddest thought hit me. I am actually looking forward to going back into the woods. What? Did I just say that? A strange and unexpected change began happening to me, and this was my first realization of it. I am a little older than some of the other young Daniels, and going out to Wilderness North happened for me the second day of training. So everything was rushed, and I actually still had to work 6 or 7 days through the training. So when I came to Wilderness North, I had no idea, nobody ever told me, by the way, there's going to be no electricity in your cabin. And there's going to be no running water, hence your bathroom is outside. And the other thing, nobody told me there were spiders this big in your cabin. And so, being the Girl Scout that I was, my mom took us camping. I'm like, I can do this. But when it's 26 degrees outside and you're all huddled in your bed, you don't want to go outside to this little hut that is now your bathroom. But when I decided that there is something working here, I realized that God had decluttered my life. At Wilderness North, we've tried to unplug from technology. And I had to work, so I kind of had to talk to people. So that was my little in that I could keep my phone. And I'm older, I'm an adult. I don't need to decompress. And so I don't need to get rid of so much. But when I found myself going back to work, I couldn't handle the radio on in my office. I couldn't handle the radio on in my car. I couldn't handle the radio that was playing in the mall when I had to run an errand. And TV. I still watch Shark Tank, because I know some of you would like Shark Tank, but I don't really like TV because it clutters my mind, and the fog that sometimes the excess noise has been there has lifted away. That in mind, I just started to realize that less is more, and I started to hear the voice of God, not just in my little quiet time, but all throughout the day, and it's something that I don't want to give back. Mary had never seen anyone so captivating before. With sparkling eyes and a powerful kindness, she had seen him silence the proud and heal the lame. But now he was in her house. Her sister Martha was doing all the chores and preparation, making the food for the household, and started to get a little crabby. And through that frustration, she got so frustrated, she finally came out and said, Jesus, And I have no idea what this is like because, I have a twin sister that's so cooperative all the time. Jesus, because she needs to go to the higher up one to make a point to her sister. Jesus, Mary is sitting there, and you need to tell her to help me make the food because I'm doing all the work. And this is what he tells Mary. Martha, Martha, you are worried and fussing over so many things, getting worked up over nothing. But few things are really needed. Actually, only one is essential. Mary chose it, and it won't be taken from her. As a modern-day Daniel, I have come to understand that the lifestyle of an effective, Christ-centered leader requires intentional pruning and focus on his priorities, sitting at his feet and listening to his heart. Going forward, I intend to maintain this pruning of distraction and noise, but I am welcoming back electricity, bathrooms, and minus the spiders, and will continue to spend many, many, many hours sitting at his feet.
A serious learner, deep, discerning thinker, someone who taught us all a lot of new things about learning and thinking, mixed with a unique blend of boldness and humility. John Mark Hazuka. Welcome him up. John Mark.
Teetering on the edge of a sailboat, anchored in the middle of Lake Superior, the second weekend of the 40 days. Next to me were Gabrielle, Darby, and Sarah, all lined up, ready to jump in. Earlier the trip, we decided that we were going to jump into Lake Superior because it is, 50, 48 degrees, somewhere in there. And my initial reaction was, I don't know about all that. And as I thought about it, I was like, well, actually, early in the week, I was kind of sore. I got a couple bruises. Maybe if I see it as an ice bath, there we go. I think that's good enough motivation. And doing it with other people was definitely a plus. So I'm on the edge. I jump in. Sarah described it as burning. I wouldn't quite go that far. It was, but it was. You get the picture. And I climbed out, and I was totally ready to go again. And in that, reflecting on it, just seeing that with other people, and when you can find a reason why you do like something, even like instead of why you don't like something, just the motivation behind that. So then, 2 weeks later, we are doing something that we call Mission Impossible. And me and Charlie are driving down the street in a town that we accidentally ended up in because we were trying to go the other direction. But, so we were in two harbors, and Charlie has the guitar in the back seat, and we see this outdoor stage, probably about, you cut this room in half, it's the stage, just, in the middle of the park. So we decide, so he asks, do you wanna go play just a couple songs? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. We were looking for someone who had played in at the Orpheum in New York, and so we figured performing arts, play some music, maybe we'll run into someone who knows something. So we were jamming up there, figured if nothing else, we take this time to think about where we want to go next. And this guy comes up, and we start talking, and his son, while not having played live too much, had recorded an album which included, his title track was this man's and his wife's song that they co-wrote. And so while we had set this goal and we didn't quite meet it, we were able to enjoy the journey on the way and really meet this cool guy who, and we got a song out of it. It was just a huge blessing. And just, again, with someone else, kind of daring each other to move forward and take a chance. And as a modern day Daniel, learning, even on top of these outside experiences, the things that we learned in the classroom about not only motivating myself, but also motivating others around me to be more like Jesus and set goals and to really follow through and meet them.
This next young Daniel is tenacious, but there's a tender compassion that displays a real desire to be a bright, shining light for Christ into the darkness of false religions around her. Darby Williams. Welcome, Darby.
One Thursday morning, Clint, Lori, and I walked into the train museum. We went in looking for someone who worked on the railroad, but God had a different plan in mind. We met Vicky. We walked in, and she was sitting at the counter just there for her lunch break, covering for someone else. We got to talking about school, and she actually learned that she'd been a teacher for many years. She taught in Sacramento for 10 years, and then she actually went to South Korea and taught English for a long time. She has a son also. That's in his 30s, and we just got to be able just to really talk about life with her and enjoy her company just for the short time we were there. We also got to invite her to the workshop we had last Saturday, and she did come, which was a huge blessing, I think, for the three of us, and just Vicky coming and being there with us. At the end of our conversation, I got the chance to pray for Vicky. I prayed for her son, who has some special ed issues, and he's actually out in California, and she's with him right now. So I got to pray for that, and just her continued growing the South Koreans and being there and being a witness to them. And it brought tears to the three of our eyes. Me, Lori, and Vicky were all a little teary-eyed afterwards, just the blessing of being able to witness to her and just spend a few 20 minutes just talking and pouring into someone I'd never met before. Through my meeting with Vicky, I saw the importance of growing relationships as a ministry in the way of Jesus. Walking around the mall by myself, I saw an older lady sitting on a bench, and I decided I was going to go talk to her. Her name is Dottie. I got to sit and talk to Dottie for about 5 or 10 minutes while her friend was in the store shopping. We talked about how she was a probation officer and that was really hard for her, especially when she had to work on the rape cases. We talked about her many grandchildren and how much she loved them and how she had 6 boys, so she was very excited to have lots of little granddaughters to run around. She also informed me she enjoyed working in the hospitals and just being there for people in their hardest times or getting to be their best times of their lives. After about 10 minutes, I was also able to pray with Dottie, which was a blessing for the both of us. She said she didn't really have any big prayer concerns, but just prayer for health and the patients back at home that she had been helping with, and just safe travels back home from the mall. In using my relational skills, Dottie and I were able to expand past just the surface level conversations. And she was able to reveal herself to me, and I appreciated it very much. In using my relational skills, I, as a modern day Daniel, intend to take the time to turn more strangers into friends as my ministry, just as Jesus did.
This past March, I was down in Surfside Beach, Texas, on a mission trip. This exact trip has been a big impact in my life. Exactly 1 year prior to it, at 19 years old, I gave my life to Christ right there on the beach on that mission trip. This past March, the leader of the trip asked us young Daniels from Wisconsin to come on down and lead the spiritual development portion of it. So me, as well as myself as Charlie Strange and Abbey Meyers, and Owen Cooper gathered our bags and headed on down there. And we had the opportunity to lead small groups, to put on Acts 2:42 Bible studies, which is a format of studying the Bible that we learned 6 months prior during our 40-day Daniel experience. We also had the, assignment to give a 20 to 30 minute talk. We each had to pick a night that week and pick a topic to give a so-called message or a sermon, is what way I looked at it. And so I decided to pick the topic of forgiveness in front of a congregation of roughly 60 people. And I was just incredibly humbled by the way God used me in order to do that. I had confidence in myself, I had confidence in my message I delivered, and God truly used me in a first-time experience like that. And I just sit here and I cannot wait to see, and I'm so excited to see the exact same kind of transformations that are going to happen out of this year's Young Daniel group. And they're going to encounter times where they're going to have to use their leadership training. And they have been properly equipped to be Christ-centered leaders that they are, to be agents of influence in all areas of their life. And the next person I want to welcome up is an exact replica of just this. He is wise. He has extreme confidence in himself, and with a spice of humor to add to it as well. So let's go ahead. I'd love to have the pleasure to welcome up Andrew Conan.
So 2 weeks ago, Aaron and I were praying in my car. We were just about to go up on one of our field assignments, Mission Impossible. We were assigned to find someone who had sunken in a shipwreck on Lake Superior. And if you guys don't know, that sounds pretty impossible, doesn't it? Well, that day we had been going around to nursing homes, ship museums, that ship museum down on the harbor, and we had been directed to go to a train museum to ask someone about our other assignment, which was to find someone who was in mining management. So we had about half an hour to get to our place where we were going to eat, which is Green Mill, and Aaron and I were in my car and we started praying, God, let's just please help us find someone to find someone who was involved in a shipwreck or at least mining management. And so we prayed about it. We walked down to the depot and found out that it was closed. So we walked back and we ran into an art museum. So we walked in, we saw this guy who ran the art museum, and we asked him a question, like out of the blue, like, do you know anyone who was involved in a shipwreck in the past in his life or anyone like that? And it turned out the guy's dad was involved in a shipwreck in the Caribbean like 10 years ago, and he had to be rescued by a helicopter. And so we found out him, and then another guy we came up to talk to, and we asked if he knew anyone in the mining industry. And it turned out he had a few contacts that he gave us a few phone numbers to call for someone who worked in the mining industry. So we called them, and that worked out. And after this incident, I was reminded that in prayer, confidence needs to be rooted in the Lord. Day 29, I sat in the training room, fearful for what lay ahead. We had just been given the daunting task of a 20-minute talk. Imagine that, 20 minutes. That day, 20 minutes seemed like forever to me, because growing up, I'm fearful of giving talks in front of people. I hated being around in front of a lot of people. And so that night, we had been giving our assignments we had to find, I got the assignment of talking about taming the tongue. And so that week I had thought about some stories to add to my talk, and I prayed about it, and God thankfully gave me a few stories to tell. And that Monday when we gave the talk, I was freaking out, and that morning we were actually not giving the talk that day, which is a psych. We got psyched out that day, and we turned out to be we went out to the North Shore for a day, and I was praising God. Thank God I got another day to rehearse and practice this assignment. So we ended up, I got to prepare the next night, and I prepared well, and I woke up the next morning, felt confident and ready to give my speech. And I gave, after Sarah actually went first in our group, and so Sarah just seemed like forever, like 20 minutes, like listening to people talk seemed like 20 minutes seemed like eternity. And so before I got the heebie-jeebies of, I don't know if my stories will last this long, I don't know if I have enough stories to accomplish 20 minutes. So I went up, started giving the talk, got comfortable as the time, I got more comfortable as time went on, and turns out I finished at 19 minutes, 15 seconds, and after that I grew a lot in confidence. After finishing my longer talk and receiving words of appreciation, I grew even more in confidence, not only in myself, but in my ability to lead others. As a modern day Daniel, I now understand confidence has empowered me to be myself, and going forward, I am committing to myself to build confidence in others as they walk with Christ.
Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. This next young Daniel exemplifies this verse. She's enthusiastic, bold, and courageous, and she seeks after the Lord passionately with her whole heart. Let's welcome up Gabrielle Lester.
On the third day of our adventure, God spoke to me. I was walking down the path from my cabin to the lodge, and as I was walking, I was admiring God's beauty. I looked at the yellow trees and the orange trees, and I heard the crisp crunch of the leaves underneath me. And as I was walking in peace, I heard the Lord say, "I gave you this time to be with me." When he said that, I had so much joy and so much peace. Because the days before, I did not know why I was there. I said, "God, why am I here? I don't understand." I wanted to grow in community. I wanted to gain from the sessions and grow in knowledge, as well as I wanted to just enjoy the whole time being there and just being with people. And I did not seem to have that. I didn't get it. I was like having a hard time connecting with the people right away. I wasn't understanding the lessons, and I was just really struggling. But when God said this to me, I understood. Yes, that's why I'm here. I'm here to be with you. I gave you this time to be with me, he said. So I gave that up to him. I said, "God, the next 40 days I dedicate to you and to you alone. This is my time to be with you." Shortly after that, I got really close, and my friends became my brothers and sisters. They are my brothers and sisters in Christ. I not only learned in the sessions, but I renewed my mind to be more Christ-like. When I had this Christ-like focus, then everything was so much better. God's word says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of Christ, or the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." It was a hot day and we were pulling weeds. It was a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays we have work projects. So we go down to the volleyball court, and if you think of a volleyball court, you think of the gorgeous sand and the beautiful net and kids playing. Well, we walked down and the sand was grass and weeds. And we go, "Oh, okay." And our job for the next 2.5 hours was to pull all of the weeds and dig up all the grass so it looked somewhat like a volleyball court again. So as we're pulling those weeds and we're wiping our sweat and we're throwing them in the wheelbarrows, we're thinking, or at least I'm thinking, what are we doing? This is crazy. It's September. Are we even going to play volleyball? This is not fun. I am not enjoying it. I am ready to go back and take a shower. So as this time was going on, I did not enjoy it. But later in class, we learned a few days later to work and to do everything for the glory of God. The word avoda in the in the Hebrew means to work and to worship. When you have this Christ-centered mentality, when you have the Christ focus, then your work can become worship. Anything can be used for the glory of God if you have Christ as the focus. Now, as a modern-day Daniel, I make Christ the center of my thoughts, my words, and my actions. And because Christ is living in me, I am a light and an influence to those around me.
Yesterday, I sat stunned. I was sitting in the training room up at Wilderness North, and I was listening to someone play a song on the piano. As I sat there, I thought about this man and what he'd been sharing with us for the last hour. This man had been sharing about his grandfather, about his father, and then about himself. He shared how they stood strong in their faith and how they did not back down. They stood firm. And as I was listening to him play this song on the piano, I couldn't help but look down at my notes I've been writing. And I saw something that I had written. It said, "He sets us free." Talking about Jesus and how Jesus sets us free. And so as I thought about the stories that this man had been sharing, and then about also how we are set free from things in our lives. And so to share more about this, I want to welcome up our speaker,